We are here at the Long Beach Sunnyside Cemetery and Municipal Cemetery for the 27th annual cemetery tour put on by the incredible folks at the Long Beach Historical Society. People like me who grew up in Long Beach, we see street names and building names and we understand that there's stories and people behind some of those names, but we don't always get a chance to know what they are. And today we have an incredible group of actors who are going to tell some of those stories that are funny and heartwarming and really important to the history of our city. So tune in now to see one of those stories happen.
Welcome. My name is Lydia Shinkle. Oh, excuse me, I said it the wrong way. Lydia Shinkle. But everybody calls me Mrs. Shinkle.
Bienvenidos. I'm Jesus Vasquez. Everyone called me Jesus. Mrs. Shinkle and I worked for Fred and Florence Bixby at Rancho Los Alamitos in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s.
As we stand here, we are about midway between the city's two ranchos. Rancho Los Alamitos is near the Virginia Country Club, a few miles northwest of here.
Rancho Los Alamitos is a few miles southeast of here, near Cal State Long Beach. Look at this picture from the 1940s. See, no college, no houses, except for the Bixbys and farmers. You can see the ranch house and the barns, and then nothing but land for miles. That's the ranch we knew.
During World War I, Long Beach women volunteered to support sons and husbands fighting overseas. We met at Bixby Park to roll bandages and pack first aid kits and things like that. That's where I met Mrs. Bixby. We were about the same age and had the same values. I was a housewife, and my husband, Joel, worked at the bathhouse on the Pike. Oh, I know today the bathhouse on the Pike doesn't sound very respectable, but it was in 1919. He also had lobster traps, and sometimes the catch would spend the night in our bathtub. Mrs. Bixby was part of the most influential family in Long Beach, and despite our different circumstances, we hit it off. So when she asked me to come to work as the ranch cook, I said yes. I was one of 19 children. I was used to large gatherings. I fit right in at the rancho. Oh, people said that they had to yell to get my attention. I used a hearing trumpet and later hearing aids, but I never had any trouble hearing Mrs. Bixby.
I came to the ranch because of my wife. Her brother was a cow milker and said it was a good place to work. Mr. Bixby hired me in 1925. There were 10 or 12 men living and working on the ranch. Mr. Bixby rented out some plots of land and farmed others. Most of the tenants were Mexicano, but some Japanese and Filipino farmers too.
And Belgium sugar beet farmers. The area around the rancho and into Los Alamitos was filled with people recruited from Belgium to grow beets as an alternative to sugarcane. There was a factory to turn the beets into sugar. Beet pulp and molasses were byproducts, but we used them too.
Mr. Bixby's land reached from Recreation Park on one side, clear into Orange County on the other. Oil had already been discovered on the ranch. Mr. Bixby kept horses, including large workhorses he depended on. He also kept cattle. He'd host these huge barbecues that included an auction for some of the horses' offspring. Some men worked with the horses that pulled the wagons and farm equipment. The horses expected to be fed and cows milked even on Sundays. Most of us worked 7 days a week and all day until the work was done. Two men had a critical job. Every day they'd cut wood in the gum grove, split it into stove lengths, and then delivered it to the kitchen.
Oh. I cooked on a wood-burning stove. I made 3 meals each day, and the bins had to be filled 3 times a day. Oh, I rang the big dinner bell when it was time to eat. Sometimes I packed lunches for Jesus and the others to take out to the furthest pastures.
People who visit the rancho now say that it's peaceful. That was never the case when we were there. There was always noise and activity and dust.
Oh.
It was always bad, but the roundups were the worst.
That is when all the cattle were herded in to be branded. Oh, and the air was always filled with the most unpleasant animal sounds and smells and flies. Always flies.
Out by the barns were machines that electrocuted the flies. There were small boxes with electrified wires sticking up and molasses drizzled on the bottom. They couldn't resist going in for the molasses. There was a flash and zit sound. when they touched the wires and met their doom. One of my jobs was to look after livestock. I fed them, cleaned the barns, mended fences. I'd mix up the cattle feed. We'd grind up the hay in the bed of a small truck, mix it with beet pulp and barley. A horse would pull the wagon out to the trough where we'd spread the mixture along the bottom and pour molasses on top. I bet we could order that in some fancy restaurant today.
I should hope not. Oh, the Depression devastated the outside world, but the ranch never felt depressed.
We were lucky. We had jobs, houses, fresh milk every day, fruits and vegetables from the tenant farmers. It was prohibition, so no alcohol sales. Mr. Bixby knew some of us made beer. The only thing he ever said was that we couldn't sell it.
Oh, Jesus, let's tell them what happened in 1933.
Oh, yeah.
It was late afternoon on March 10th. I was in the kitchen with Nacha Machuca. She lived down the hill with her family. We were making dinner for all the workers. Oh, suddenly everything started to shake. Even with my bad hearing, I could hear the furniture moving. It was the longest 15 seconds of my life.
Nacho's mother was so scared she came running up the hill to the ranch shouting, "Mi hija, my daughter," until she saw Nacho was safe. People outside gathered to talk about what to do about the aftershocks and rumored tidal wave.
Oh, the ranch's large wooden water tower had fallen and the water was just rushing down the hill.
People down the hill watched the water rush by and became hysterical, thinking that it was the tidal wave.
Oh, inside the house, we tried to pick up what had fallen and save what we could. They built a temporary kitchen for me out on the West Drive, and that is where we cooked until we could move back into the house.
While the people of Long Beach rebuilt, it was the farmers that kept them fed. Looking around, I could see that modern equipment was replacing horse and human labor on tenant farms. Machines were replacing horses, but not on the farm, not on the ranch. Mr. Bixby trusted horses over machines. I didn't think that'd ever change.
In 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and everything was about to change again. The government had ordered the relocation of Japanese people away from the coast. In a short time, all the Japanese families that we had known for many years were gone from their farms.
Mr. Bixby rounded up what they'd left behind and put it into storage for a while. When he saw that they wouldn't be soon coming back, he sold the items to the workers. I wanted a refrigerator, but I couldn't afford it. So Mr. Bixby gave it to me.
I was getting older and I'd had a few health problems. In 1942, I was 67 years old and I'd worked for the ranch for 22 years. I retired, but my sister Mary took my place. I lived to be 84 and enjoyed retirement, living with my family, many of whom are buried right here in this cemetery.
It was 1950 when I got to drive a tractor. But that's a story for another time. Thank you so much for joining us and supporting the Historical Society of Long Beach.